Hey, welcome again. Welcome back. Welcome. If you don't know or haven't met me yet, my name is Stephanie Jackson. I'm a certified nutrition and health life coach. I'm also a registered nurse, as I'm a nurse practitioner by degree. So I have a degree as a nurse practitioner, and I work at Children's Hospital and the Teen Health Center. I also have four children of my own, and me and my husband share those. My husband of 34 years, we share those four kids. And nutrition has always been a huge part of my life. I was a former bodybuilder. So at 35, I think I decided to go back and do bodybuilding. And when I did bodybuilding, I learned so much about my own body and how food affected my body. I've suffered from chronic asthma, and I found that when I ate really healthy, that my asthma wasn't as bad, or that I healed better. And so I decided to become a nutrition and health coach so I could learn even more. So I'm bringing to you my nursing degree, my own personal health experience, as well as my certification in nutrition and health. And I'm sharing you all the tools and resources that have helped me and my family. I want to first thank the Center for Closing the Health Gap for sponsoring this Nutrition Train the Trainer, along with the Cincinnati Links Black Care Initiative. And we talked a little bit about that last week. So if you got to watch the replay, you can hear more about what the Cincinnati Links Black Care Initiative is sharing about kidney health. And then the Center for Closing the Health Gap for this resource and this opportunity to share. So let's get in here and get started. Tonight, we're going to be talking about MyPlate. I'm going to be using a few resources. I'm going to be using the myplate.gov website, which is the government website. And I have some other resources and some other tools that I want to share also that if you're looking for specific nutrition for weight loss or health, that they'll be really helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just bear with me for a second here. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a good week. Have the Bengals coming up this week. So, I mean, we're all good here in Cincinnati. Oh, let me get back to, sorry, I'm going to exit out. Okay. So that's me. And you are at Nutrition Train the Trainer, sponsored by the Health Gap and Cincinnati Links Black Care Initiative. And it's part of the Do Right campaign through the Health Gap. And yep, that's me. I'm a nurse and certified health and nutrition life coach, and love sharing. So tonight, we're going to talk about building a healthy plate. And our goal is to be able to share examples of fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairies, which are all part of healthy eating. And then our second goal is to describe what goes into a healthy plate. So I know I have 4 pictures on here, but there's actually 5 food groups. So I have the fruits and vegetables combined in there, your protein, your dairy, and your grains. And once again, I love these images because it shows you some really healthy examples of all those foods. So we're going to go probably pretty in depth tonight about those. So let's just get started. And we're going to start with fruits. Fruits is like a really easy food group because they're easily accessible, right? So as far as serving size, fruits can be in multiple serving sizes. So it depends on what you're eating. So if you're eating a fresh fruit, it's about a cup. You're drinking a cup of juice or half a cup of dried fruit. And I brought the dried fruit for reference. And one thing I do want to remind you, if you are eating dried fruit, just to make sure that you read the because this particular dried fruit that I'm looking at that I had bought, and I did not look at the label because I wanted dried pineapple, has a lot of extra sugar. So when you're thinking about your fruit, you want to try to stick with your natural fruits. Dried fruits, you want to really watch your sugar because a lot of them have added sugar. And that's why I brought this package of dried pineapple to show you, because this actually has a total of 31 grams of sugar with 18 additional sugars. So when you're eating and looking for fruit options, you want to avoid the canned because a lot of those have been watered down, but to stick with natural fruits. So your grapes, your plums, your apples, fruits you're going to crunch into. You can also juice your fruits, but to eat your fruits, you also get that fiber from the outside of the fruits, like the skin. So when you're eating your fruits, try to stick with whole, fresh fruits. But if you can't do that, frozen fruits are a great option. And if you're making smoothies and things like that, frozen fruit are wonderful. And then dried fruits, you just want to eat less. You only eat about a half a cup of a dried fruit because sometimes it can have added sugar. So our first group is our fruits, and we're going to go a lot more in depth. So I'm going to go through these slides and we're going to go to some other resources. Vegetables, which is one of my favorite fruit groups. Vegetables can be classified in a couple ways. They can be your leafy greens, or you can have more of your starchy vegetables. So any vegetable juice. And we talked last week, we talked a little bit about juicing, and I shared one of my secrets of juicing when you don't have a juicer. So if you weren't able to catch that, you can watch the replay. You can have fresh squeezed juice without a juicer, pressed juice that's really inexpensive. Vegetables can be eaten raw, cooked, and if you're going to cook them, we talked last week about steaming them. Steaming them helps keep a lot more of the nutrients in them. Or you can eat them, dehydrated, but mostly eating them either steamed, raw, or avoiding the ones that are deeply cooked to where they're mushy. You can eat frozen fruits, or vegetables, you can eat fresh vegetables. So the equivalent would be 1 cup of raw cooked vegetables or vegetable juice, or 2 of the green leafy greens, which when we start to talk about making a plate, your plate can be so much more full when you add all these additional like green leafy vegetables. So I'm going to share something I had for breakfast actually this morning, and I will share it later in the presentation. But I added spinach to my breakfast, and like it totally changes. It looks like you have so much more food. And I know a lot of times we don't traditionally eat vegetables besides like maybe spinach in our eggs, but it is perfectly okay to add vegetables in for breakfast. So have a bowl of steamed cauliflower, or add in cauliflower rice to your oatmeal. It will add additional nutrients, additional vegetables. And I have never tried this. I've seen people do it, but it can also add additional bulk, and it makes it more healthy. But oatmeal is already healthy as it is, but you can also add in vegetables. So it's completely okay if you want to have a couple of vegetables for breakfast. Have a couple of vegetables for breakfast. Do not, feel like because it's not the norm, it's not okay to have vegetables. And then so you have more of the starchy vegetables, so your potatoes, your lentils, and it's recommended about 2.5 cups of vegetables. But what I would tell you is if you're going to eat raw green leafy, you can add those to every single meal and with your snacks, and you'll just get more nutrients. And then you can also add in your juice. These are all going to be utilized by your body. And then I'm going to go back to vegetables. And it's important for your body to have different types of vegetables, because what happens is you get different nutrients from different vegetables. So if you just eat broccoli, you're only going to get the nutrients that broccoli provides. But if you add more colors in, if you add in red bell pepper, if you add in carrots, if you add in cauliflower, you're getting additional nutrients that one vegetable won't provide. So make sure that you eat a diverse colors and textures of vegetables. And potatoes are not. Potatoes have lots of nutrients. Potatoes get a really bad name, but they're actually really, really healthy. The next group is going to be grains. And this one is challenging because a lot of us grew up on white rice, right? I mean, I didn't have brown rice. We always had white rice. We didn't have a lot of any other, but there's so many other types of grains. I meant to bring down some other grains that you can eat, but there's like quinoa, there's couscous. Now there are a multitude of grains. And so grains make up our third food group, if you want to consider these as a separate group. Grains are divided into 2 groups: whole grains and refined grains. Whole grains contain the entire grain kernel. So like your wheat flour, your bulgur, your oatmeal, your whole grain cornmeal, your brown rice. And then our refined grains, if I can get it out, that means certain B vitamins like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folic acid, and iron are added back after they're being processed. So when you're looking at your grains and how much fiber you want to take in, if you want to have like more of a whole grain, is probably the best route to go. So your brown rices, your bulgur, your corn, your brown whole grain cornmeal, your oatmeal, and your quinoa is considered a grain. Let's see, what else did I want to say on this slide? We'll talk more about those further through. I'm going to get through these proteins. Proteins are probably the easiest to describe because for us meat eaters, it's really simple. You can look at lean meats, lean chicken breast, salmon, lean salmon, your lean beets. And then if you're not a meat eater, you have soy products. So you have your tempeh, you have your tofu. You can also, like, if you're not pregnant, if you're pregnant, avoid like the mercury meats, like some of the fishes. But if you are able to eat a diverse layers of meats, like your poultries, your different fishes, just keep that really diverse. There's so many different ways, pork loin, but try to eat the skinless breast or the skinless thighs if you don't like the breast. And there's so many different ways you can prepare it. So I'm excited about the week we do meal planning because we're talking about different ways that you can prepare chicken, different ways you can prepare steak, the different ways you can prepare fish so that you can have diverse meals throughout the week. There's also your lentils and your nuts and your seeds. And the most important thing about, especially with the nuts and seeds, is to really monitor the amount. Because it's so easy to overeat those. And I have a slide that I'm going to share later on that's going to show you ways that using your hands that you can determine portion sizes, because we don't always have like a scale or measuring cups so that we can see like exactly what we're eating. But I have a slide that I'm going to share ways that you can kind of use your hands to determine that you're getting the right size portion, because nuts are really easy to overeat. You pick up a bag, you start eating out of it, and you've already eaten like 5 servings. So here's a couple of general rules for serving sizes. So an ounce of meat is considered a serving size. A fourth a cup of cooked beans, an egg, a tablespoon of peanut butter, and that's a measuring tablespoon, not like a tablespoon from the kitchen drawer, because that's what I used to love to do. Just take a tablespoon, go in and just take a tablespoon and eat it because I love peanut butter, but an actual measuring tablespoon, and then a half an ounce of nuts or seeds. So that really is like not very much when you measure it, when you weigh it, or when you see the measurement. So just be aware when you're eating, especially with proteins. Now, proteins will be different if you're you're trying to build muscle, you're doing a sport or athlete. That's going to be different for you as an athlete or someone trying to build muscle. For the average person, you really don't need as much protein as someone who's like an athlete training or things like that. So just keep that in mind when you start to, and I'll show you a tool that you can use to determine like exactly what your body needs. And then last is dairy. So dairy is one of the ones that as we get older, I think a lot of us probably eat less of. I know for me, at least, I eat less of, and my body actually doesn't like it as much. So it's much harder for me to eat dairy. But milk, your yogurt, your cheeses, your soy milks, fortified soy milks. And if you like Greek yogurt, that's a great one to have. So about 1 cup of yogurt, 1 cup of milk. And I did bring over, an ounce and a half of cheese. So I wanted to show you guys that. I cut some cheese up so you could see an ounce and a half of cheese. Normally the things like sour cream, cream cheese, butters are not included in this. And even if you're going to use like the butters, cream cheese, just use those in smaller portions, but those would not be included as part of the recommended dairy foods that are healthier for you. So just, when you're weighing or you're thinking about cheese is such an easy one, just like nuts, to overeat, because I think about like when I get a cheese tray or I make a cheese tray, you grab like several of those little pieces of cheese and they're so good and you're eating them and you're not really thinking about like the size or the measurements. So I'm hoping that the screenshot that I share with you later on will give you a little bit better tool. So when you're out and about or you're at a party and you're just eating away at the cheese tray, you start to think about what an ounce actually looks like. So here's a little sample of plate, and I'll show you several more. Excuse me. So the recommendations from myplate.gov, and this is the way I actually break my plate up, is to break your plate into fourths. The one difference that I look at as far as recommendation is, instead of having the fruit in the fourth of your plate, make that other fourth of your plate leafy vegetables or green beans, or a vegetable that's cooked healthy, and make half your plate those vegetables. You can save your fruit for dessert, and then you're going to have a quarter of your plate to be your grain. So that's going to be your brown rice, your quinoa, whatever grain you're choosing to eat. And then that other quarter would be your meat. So that would be somewhere between 3 ounces for most adults. Now, in the government, they break it down by adding in fruit. Fruit really is not something you need at every meal. So when you're making up your diet for the day, kind of think about where you would want your fruit to be. So if you're going to have 2 servings of fruit, would you want that to be with your snacks and your breakfast, and not with your dinner? So most people probably would put like a salad in place of that, or extra vegetables. So that's where I kind of differ with making a plate, is that when you have your fruit, you have 2 servings a day. If you have 2 servings a day, think about where you'd want those. I always have my fruit either with breakfast and with snacks during the day. And so the plate they're showing here, I would definitely have removed that fruit and have that with another meal throughout the day, or like a snack or breakfast, and then fill the rest of that plate with your green leafy vegetables. Okay, so I'm going to exit my screen here and stop sharing. Hold on. There we go. Okay, one thing I didn't get to do, I forgot to do, let me go to gallery. I meant to go back to last week and I totally got ahead of myself. So before we go forward, I wanted to get a few volunteers to talk a little bit about our definitions from last week. So the first definition was nutrition density. Does anybody want to share what they remember about nutrition density? I got ahead of myself. I got so excited about the food groups, I got distracted from my plan. Anyone want to share? Let me see if I see any names I recognize from last week. I recognize a few of you. I'm gonna do like the teachers in school and say, okay, who are we gonna call on? One person to tell me about nutrition density. Or maybe we'll do this. How about 2 or 3 people share something that you learned last week? That way we'll take you off the spot.
I can share. This is Shelly. So first of all, the nutrient density, if I remember correctly, it's like the amount, basically what you're getting for your buck in terms of nutrition. And so I'm not really sure how to explain it any better than that.
Perfect.
Okay. So when you're reading your labels and looking at, your choices and selections, you want to, it's kind of a ratio. I think that you might have said that it's, I forget, but the bang for your buck. And one of the things that I learned was, actually I took some notes too. Well, vitamin supplements, we should not be focusing on vitamin supplements to get our nutrients. We should get it from food, actually. Yes. And and as far as carbs, we really, when we're reading the labels, we want to look for things that have less than 20 grams of carbs per serving.
Perfect. Yes, Shelly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up.
Sure.
And then we have Nada and Tanya. So Nada, you want to unmute and share? Thank you, Shelly. Good job.
Hey there. So the most important takeout for me last time was the portion amount, recommended portions from reading the labels and considering that for even like pastas and rice and things other than snacks. Just making sure you're eating that on the healthier side. And also like the amount of nutrient, there was the equation at the end of like how many nutrients, some nutrients that you get from each snack and anything you eat, and how you see that from the labels. This was this was very educational for me. So thank you.
That's good. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, the portion side of rice and pasta, like I said, that was a wake up call for me a few years ago when I actually decided to measure my pasta, and I was like, oh my God, I've been eating like 5 servings every time I eat it. Thanks, Nada. Tanya.
Yes, I learned several things last week. However, one thing that stood out with me most, Stephanie, because I'm a salt eater, I love chips. And when you read the servings, and we're here to be open and honest. I typically will eat a whole bag of chips in one sitting. But
So
then
easy to do.
when you showed us the baggie and how we could measure out the chips, and you said 16, and I was like, oh man, that's not going to do it. But the very next day, Stephanie, I actually did that, and it was filling, and I realized I
Wow.
can do this.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, your brain, I mean, it's amazing when you like your taste buds only really need to taste it. It's like it's just that we get in the habit of just that motion and then we don't realize how much extra we're eating. Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
but
cool.
yeah, but that 16 was filling. I didn't need any more. And to be honest, Stephanie, I was thinking, there's no way 16 chips are going to do it for me. But it actually did. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I felt really great about it because I didn't even have any more for the rest of the day. So I really,
Wow, that is so wow, girl, that is so awesome. So yeah, so if you missed last week, I had some examples of portion sizes of snacks that I actually eat. And to be funny, like with you guys, when I showed you the 2 cookies that I had in the bag, I just ate those cookies yesterday. I put them in the pantry and totally forgot about them. And I was like, wait a minute, I got 2 cookies in a bag because I was showing a portion size of Oreos. And then we'll have one more from Jamie. Thank you so much, Sonia, for sharing that.
I think what I got from last week is that I love juices. I'm not a big like soda drinker, but a lot of the juices have a very high sugar content. And if you're watching, your sugar content in foods, you also have to watch them in drinks. So I tried to look at labels a little bit more and cut back on the juice and just really drink more water than anything. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, juices are snack. I told you guys I shared last week how I bought a packaged green juice. And I was kind of trying to, save myself some time. I don't know if I shared that or not, but I tried to save myself some time. And I got that home and I was like, oh my gosh. Like I actually had to like pour out half and then fill it with some pressed juice because it had so much sugar in it. So thank you guys all for sharing. Like that was a lot of fun for me. Let's see, I'm going to share with you now. A website. So this website is the government nutritional website. I don't agree with like everything as far as completely like some of the additional fruit they add in on the plate, but it does have some really good resources that you can go back to kind of help give you a better idea. And I'm gonna be real transparent because I'm gonna be sharing like my weight and height and everything on here. So let me go back to share my screen here and I'm gonna pull up, let's see, the website here. Let's see. All right, so this is the U.S. Department of Agriculture website. There's a couple reasons that I get like kind of iffy with the website because it does it's very general. And that's probably the only reason where I'm like, you have to kind of look at your personal lifestyle before you look at the website because it is very general as far as serving sizes. So under this resource tool, I'm going to show you guys where you can figure out, get your own plan. So this will give you kind of an idea of your caloric intake and what that should look like. And then when you start to look at labels and you start to make your plate, you'll start to think about like the number of calories you're taking in, because we, as Americans in our country, culturally, we take in a lot of calories. I mean, just looking at the meals when we order out, I share with you guys that Panda Express is like, I love Panda Express now because there's one like around the corner of the street from my house. And when I started looking at the serving sizes of those, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like eat half of this because it's a lot more. So when you start to like look at the calories that they have on menus, this plan will give you a better idea of what you should be taking in. So you can go to resources and tools and get my plan, and you will go through and start here. So get your My Plate plan. So I'm going to put in my information. So I am not able to scroll. So I am 54. I'm a female. My weight is 150. My height is 5'2". And then as far as it'll ask you for physical activity, I do 30 to 60 minutes a day of moderate, I probably do more of moderate activity. So you can just go to this, calculate your food plan. And a reason I like this is because I've done a lot of food plans. I've done a lot of other apps. I've used a lot of tools to maintain and keep healthy weight. And this one was really accurate. So this right here will show you the amount of calories to achieve healthy weight. So that'd be about 1,800 calories a day for me. And then, or to lose weight, to maintain my current weight, about 2,000 calories. So this is a tool like I would love if everybody gets a chance to go in and take a look at it. And then it kind of just makes you aware of when you eat food, like what that actually looks like. So I'm going to go into the 1,800 calorie here. And what it will do, it will show you portion sizes. And I like this tool because it kind of shows you options too. So for me, I should have about 1.5 cups of fruit a day to lose weight or to maintain my present weight. About 5 ounces of meat, about 2.5 cups of vegetables, which I probably always usually have more than that because I love vegetables, and about 3 cups of dairy. So I probably don't eat dairy hardly at all. But this is probably important it also depends on your age, for your bones. And then if you're childbearing years, for you being, having strong, healthy bones for carrying a baby. And then 6 ounces of grain. So 1 ounce, and a serving size would be like a slice of bread, cereal, 1/2 cup of cooked rice, 1/2 cup of cooked pasta, 1/2 cup of cereal. And last week I showed that what a 1/2 cup of rice looks like. 1/2 cup of rice is, I don't know if you can only see, I don't know if you see my picture, but I bought my measuring cups to show more of what 1/2 cups look like. And I'll show those after I'm done with this screen. But I really like this website because you can go here and it has that tool where you can see what kind of calorie intake you should have. It's a lot of an eye opener too, if you start to see that when you go to a restaurant and you can see the calories that they have listed. I mean, a lot of meals that have hamburgers and fries are like about 1,500 calories, right? So if you're only allowed 1,800 calories to really maintain your weight or to, see some weight loss, it really makes you start to be aware of what you're eating. So I always keep that in mind. And it's okay to have days and times when you allow yourself a little extra, but on the average, trying to keep whatever that healthy caloric intake is. So I wanted to go through because I like the way they laid out how much do I need. Wait a minute, that's not the one. Oops, I went to the wrong place. Hold on. I want to see if I can find. Sorry, I had pulled all this up. Yeah, this is what I think this is what I was looking for. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted to see. So I like that it shows different your food groups. So these are some examples of berries that you can have a cup of. And you can have a couple cups throughout the day. So you have your blackberries, blueberries. A lot of these aren't as common, like dewberries. I've never heard of those. Huckleberries, never heard of those. But raspberries, kiwi fruit, all great for vitamin C. And then You have your melons, sorry, your honeydew, your cantaloupe, watermelon, things that aren't easily accessible here this time of year, but you can probably find them. And I like how they broke down the green leafy vegetables. So here's some examples of green leafy vegetables. And bok choy is like, if you're going to make like a soup, is a really great tool. Broccoli, romaine lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard. So you have so many options for dark green leafy vegetables. And then looking in our red vegetables, the butternut squash, pumpkin, carrots, red peppers, yum, those are so good. Sweet potatoes, yellow peppers, red, orange peppers, those all fall in there. So you have a lot of options for there. And then under your beans and lentils, I mean, there's just so many options. So like when we think about how we kind of minimize like our vision on food, when you start to look at all these options, like black beans, you could have a black bean burger. You know, you could have a serving of pinto beans and rice. Your hummus you can have for snacks. There's like so many wide variety of options. And then our starchy vegetables. Let's see, plantains, those are really commonly found. Yams, I don't see, you see your green peas on here, bananas. I don't see potatoes. Let's see if potatoes are under other. And then all your other vegetables or your asparagus, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. I don't know if people have never had Brussels sprouts, but Brussels sprouts are the bomb. Cauliflower and green beans, just mushrooms, onions, like just a plethora. All your squashes down here. I mean, there's so many options for vegetables. And then your grains, you have your whole grains. So there's our brown rice, and there's the popcorn. And I know somebody asked last time about popcorn, and I did look it up like right after we got off. It's actually 4 to 5 cups of air pop popcorn. If it's lightly salted, is a serving. So popcorn is a great whole grain option. It gets a bad rap because we eat it with butter and salt. And I'm right with you. If I go to the movie theater, I'm having the butter on my popcorn. It's just going to have to be a day that's exempted out of healthy eating. But if you eat popcorn that's air popped, that has just salted, you can have 4 to 5 cups. Your oatmeal, your rolled oats. These are all of your whole grains. Wild rice, whole wheat tortillas. You can make breakfast tortillas. If you want to use that as one of your breads for the day, make a breakfast tortilla. You know, you can use tortilla with your soup if you're having soup. So these were like, you can be so diverse in your eating when you're making your plate. Your plate doesn't have to just be a simple little, you know, just real simple things. You can like make it real interesting. And then like your refined grains. So these are things that are going to be more processed, like naan, corn tortillas, your cornflakes, if you want to have the cornflakes, your flour tortillas, ramen noodles, pita bread. These are things that you can have, but just be aware they are processed. So just read the labels. Look at the label before you eat it. There's actually a lot of really healthy options for all of these as well. Not all of these, but a lot of these, but your grits are in there. That you can also just read your label to make sure that you're getting, you know, the nutritional value that you need. But you have your grains there and there's lots of options. And then the easiest one is our proteins. We have our meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, nuts, seeds, beans, lentil, and soy products. So we'll start with the soy products. Your veggie burgers, your tofu. I've never heard of textured vegetable protein, but I have had a lot of vegetable protein powders and meats that are like processed through proteins, like your Beyond Burgers, things like that, and tempeh. And then your beans and your lentils. I mean, a nice lentil soup, and have you aside with some whole grain bread or some tortillas. Food can be so fun and interesting. I get excited about food because I love making all different kinds of foods. Chickpeas, you can make lots of things out of garbanzo beans. You can make sauces. You can make your own hummus, your bean burgers, your hummus right there, which is chickpea spread, navy beans. Now's the perfect time. Make some white bean chili. You got your white beans, your chicken, you know, you can, and that makes for a healthier chili. Use more of a water base. And then you have your nuts in here, which, you know, I don't need to say anything else. You got your nuts and your nuts butters. And I'm a peanut butter fan and I love nuts. So that's one area I have to like really kind of measure because I could eat peanut butter and nuts all day. And then you have your eggs, duck eggs, chicken eggs. Most of us eat the chicken eggs. And then your seafood. I mean, are there any type 1 diabetes options? Oh, you know what? I'm going to play a video in a little bit, Brandy, and I'm going to talk more and it's going to share more about those options. But honestly, if you're eating clean food, less processed food, and looking at your labels, anything falls under that diabetic window. But the clean meats, eating less of the grains, green leafy vegetables, limiting your fruits to your 2 servings. Those will all fall into healthy diabetic. Poultry, but the video I have will talk more about it, and it's a real simple video, and I hope it really helps. Your poultry. So I don't know how many of you eat many of these. I probably eat the Cornish hen, the chicken, and the turkey. Haven't had any. I've had duck once, but dove, no. But anyway, these are all poultry. So if you want to be adventurous, go for some quail. Hey, this is your time, your meals. These are all healthy options. And then you got your lean cuts of beef and pork. Goat, ham, and lamb. Like, you just have to watch if you're watching your sodium, you want to stick with the skinless, you want to stick with the leaner cuts, and avoid the processed deli meats or the ham or those things. Why are they blue? You know what? I think because they're clickable links. That's why they're blue, because they're clickable, because you can it'll show you like a serving size. So if you can go in and check that out, but there you go. That shows you a serving size of your beef and then your pork. So yeah, the ones that are blue are clickable links that'll show you a serving size. Thanks for asking. And then I think our last group is sorry if I'm making you dizzy with the scrolling, is our dairy, because I'm running short on time here. Okay. And we have our milk, our yogurt, and cheese. So I am going to, let me go down here. I want to talk a little bit about portion size, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Thank you guys for the great questions. See, we are about at 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes till. So a couple of tools that I use on a regular basis in my kitchen is, number one, a food scale. I talked about this last week. This food scale is, I think it's kind of worn out. We've used this for probably about 7-8 years. I think I got it at Target. I'm cheap, so I know it was cheap. I can tell you that much. It was not expensive because I'm cheap. I don't pay a lot for anything. So I want to say maybe $10 under, but you can find like even the ones that have like the scale, really inexpensive. And this is like your best tool, one of your best tools for the kitchen. Because if you ever want to wonder, am I having the right amount of ounces? Having a food scale. And then your other best tool, your measuring cups. As much as we don't want to take it, we only want to take it out when we're cooking. If you're taking your rice out of the pan, grab your half cup, scoop out your half cup, dump on your plate. I like to be really creative, and I think I showed on here my dinner plate from last night. I will take like that half a cup, put it there, and then I'll put like my vegetables across it and lay my meat across it and make it look like a really fancy plate, but I'm still only having a half cup of rice. It just looks like I have a lot more. Another thing you can do is take that, cut your meat up, cut your vegetables up, blend it all together and make you like a little stir fry type thing where you have like all your vegetables, everything in there, and it looks like you have this plate of stir fry. One thing that we do sometimes here is we'll have a bowl bar, and I'll make up a bunch of vegetables, rice, and like shrimp, fish, and we just make our own bowls. And then we'll have our bowls and we'll eat them with our chopsticks. And so it's just a fun thing that me and my husband do here, that sometimes when we have guests over, we just do a whole counter full of all the vegetables, the rice, and seafood and steak, and then they can make their own bowls. So they can make them, and we'll sometimes do like the Chipotle type thing, or we'll do like Asian ones. But using your measuring cups is one of your greatest tools in the kitchen. And yeah, go to Target. I think even like Walmart, every place has like a scale like this, but you can just use, like I said, they have those ones like from Weight Watchers that have like the, the balancing scale part. You can use those, but this was, I should have looked up the price, but I want to say maybe $10 or under. Really inexpensive. Okay, I want to make sure I'm hitting everything because I want to get to the LaShonda asked, white eggs versus white eggs. Are you talking like egg whites, white eggs versus brown eggs, or egg whites? Because there's less processing, I believe, with the like a brown egg. And if you're talking about egg whites, one thing, and I was going to share this later, that you can do with your eggs, if you want to have more protein, but you don't want to have the white, take one egg and add 1 or 2 egg whites to that egg. Scramble that up just like you would scramble your eggs and cook that. So you'll have more protein, but you won't have the fat from the egg. The other thing you can do that I like to do, because I like a over easy egg, I just add an extra egg white to the pan, and then there's more protein in it, but I don't have the fat from the yolk of the egg. But just add a couple extra egg white, or don't do 2 eggs, do an egg white and a whole egg. Scramble that up and make that. And then you can add your vegetables in by doing like a vegetable taco or vegetable burrito. You know, get your whole grain tortilla, add your eggs in, get your little cheese, put your spinach in there, and you have a vegetable wrap. And it looks like, you know, the kind that you would buy in the store, but it's way healthier, and you have all your elements in there. So I think I'm gonna have Lauren, you play that video. And then, yeah, I think Lauren's going to share the screen real quick, and we're going to play a quick video. Lauren, you there? There we go.
What can you make your family for dinner that's healthy and tastes good? You can follow the plate method. This healthy eating plan works for everybody, including people with diabetes. Indeed, making nutritious, healthy meals will be a snap. What's a healthy plate? It's a way to control your serving sizes where you don't have to count. Simply use a 7-inch plate for children and a 9-inch plate for adults. First, divide the plate in half and fill one of them with vegetables. There are 2 types of vegetables: starchy, like potatoes, corn, peas, or plantains, and non-starchy, like zucchini, jicama, cucumbers, carrots, or salad. If you have diabetes, fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables. Then fill 1/4 with whole grains or starches like brown rice, corn, beans, or whole wheat pasta. In the other quarter, add some lean protein like tofu, grilled fish, or chicken. What about adding a side of tortilla or bread? That's hard to resist, I know. The trick is serve yourself a smaller portion of the other starches on your plate instead. To complete your meal, add a drink like unsweetened coffee, tea, or a glass of milk. But remember that drinking 8 ounces of milk affects your blood sugar just as it would if you ate another tortilla or a slice of bread. Or you can also choose water with a squeeze of lemon or lime. How you create your plate is up to you. You have many options, as long as you remember to follow these healthy guidelines. And ta-da! You're all set. You might be thinking, how can you use the plate method to make vegetable beef soup or other meals? Simply follow the same idea. Fill your pot with low-sodium broth and lots of healthy vegetables like corn, cabbage, zucchini, carrots, and onions. And some lean beef, but not too much. Just like you'd put on 1/4 of your plate for each person you're serving. If you want, add your favorite type of bread on the side. And you've got the right amount for a healthy meal. Enjoy!
I love that video. I looked at so many of them, but the reason I like that video is because it talked about healthy type 1 diabetes plate. And I love that it gives you the option, you can have the bread, right? But just to cut the other starchy carb in that section. And it makes it really simple on how you can make your plate. I love it because it's just simple, like cut your plate in half, put all green leafy vegetables, that other fourth meat, and then that other fourth your grains. So I'm going to share some, I had some other stuff I want to share, but I think I'm running short on time. But I do want to share a couple of images. Let me see. So I'm going to start with some breakfast. So, all right. So this was my plate this morning. And underneath here, I do have I cut a half a slice of bacon into little pieces and put it in my grits. I have a serving of grits under here. I have spinach. And I added like a cup of spinach on there. And then I added my eggs on top because I wanted to add that green leafy vegetable in. And it was so good. And so these are ways that you can kind of incorporate your vegetables into your breakfast. This is the shot that I wanted to show you, that I wanted to share most of all, and I'm going to show a couple images of plates. So this is a way that if you're out and about, you can kind of get a visual of what a serving size looks like. I really love this because it makes it simple. So if you're looking at a cup of rice is about the size of your fist. So if you picture a cup and you want to have a half a cup, just break that in half. Your fingertip is about 1 teaspoon of mayonnaise or butter. The palm of your hand is about 3 ounces of whatever lean meat you're having. About a cupped hand is about a serving of nuts. And I love the thumb is about 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, not very much. 1 ounce is about the size of your index finger for cheese. So if you're at a party and you start thinking about your eating cheese, like if you're getting to 1 ounce, you can look at your finger and you see what you're having. A half cup of rice is your fist. I apologize for that. And then a cup of cooked vegetables is about the size of your fist. So this will give you a good reference, and I'll give these to Lauren so she can send them out to y'all. And this will give you a good reference for when you're out and about. If you get a plate and you're eating out dinner, you can have a better idea of serving size. Another tip that I use for when I'm eating out, 2 things. If you're trying to lose weight, instead of using a regular size plate, use a saucer. That trick has worked. It's a trick your brain uses because when you empty your plate, your brain doesn't realize that sometimes that you've eaten less. You just look at your plate and you eat what's on your plate. So try using a saucer. The other trick is if you go out to eat and you do notice that the portion size is large, go ahead and separate that portion size out immediately. Just ask for a container, a takeout container, and put half of that in a takeout container. I promise you, you will be surprised that you will eat that half of the plate and you will be full, and you will realize that you never needed the other half, and you'll have lunch for the next day. So I want to go through and see if I had some interesting other breakfast ideas, but this is another breakfast plate. She has her fruit there and toast and some red peppers and eggs. And then there's a couple of images. So this was, I don't, it's not the best picture, but this was my dinner last night. Where I had the Brussels sprouts, I have my steak, and this was actually a serving of quinoa. But I did half my plate in Brussels sprouts, my green leafy vegetables. Let's see. This was my plate the other day. And I did like a combination of cabbage and green beans and carrots. And then I did, this was salmon, but I was trying to make a teriyaki sauce. It didn't turn out that great. But there, now you see my little serving of rice down there. That's my little serving of rice in there, my little half a cup. And this is my serving of salmon. So today I had this all mixed up together. And then I used some seaweed strips and I kind of ate it with the seaweed. And that was like kind of a salmon. Here's some other samples of healthy plates. You have your vegetables and your protein and like your fourth of your grain. And then I think I have a couple more images here. And this is like, you can make this into a tortilla bowl. This is like your Chipotle bowl. You have your rice and your chicken, your vegetables, some corn, tomatoes, and your avocado. And then here they added the meat in with the vegetables, and then you have your whole grain serving on the side there. And that's our label. We'll stop sharing there. I want to get a little bit, like 5 minutes of Q&A in, because we have to leave about 5 minutes for the survey. But does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? I know I went through a lot really fast, but there was so much to talk about with the plate, and there's so much more.
I have one question. My name is Mahogany Anthony.
Hi, Mahogany.
Hello. Okay, so I'm trying to do the Daniel fast, and it is extremely hard.
I just did that, so I can help you.
My spouse, he's doing a great job, but I've cheated a couple of days. Don't tell nobody, but
Only God knows, and the other 47 people in this room.
It's so hard. I'm like, oh my Lord. But I have seen a change in the way I use the bathroom and the way I feel and energy. It does do an incredible job of making you feel better as a whole. I just want to do better. So if you have any suggestions I could use
Oh my God. I have a ton. I might have to send them to you separate. One thing you can do is when you're making like your, make like a whole pan of vegetables. So if you want to do like in the oven, you can do like peppers, green beans, I'm trying to think, zucchini. You can put all that onto a pan, a little bit of olive oil. You can use lots of seasoning, and you can make like a whole thing of vegetables, and you have a whole pan of vegetables to draw from. Having like your grains, so you can have your grains. So you can make quinoa, and you can have quinoa with that. You can do soups. I did a lot of soups when I was on the Daniel fast, so there's some great soups that you can make with. I'm trying to think of the ones I made, like butternut squash is a really good soup. You can do a potato soup, and instead of adding your regular milk in, you can add in oat milk. You can add in almond milk to make it more of a cream base. You can do soups that you can use your tofu. Use some tofu. You can use tofu. And you can make that into like a stir fry. You can add in stir fry. I have like a ton. I can give you a ton of other options that you can use. Have oatmeal for breakfast. You can do tofu scramble. But go on, if you go on Pinterest, a friend of mine, Chef Ashley Shep, she did a Daniel fast Pinterest. And she has lots of meal ideas on there. I hope that helped.
It did. Thank you.
Oh, no, you're welcome. And reach out. I thought I'll have her share my email too, and I can email you some other ideas too.
Please do.
Yeah, I'll have Lauren to share my email on there. And if you want to email me, yes, I have a ton. And I was vegan for a lot of years too. So I have a lot of ideas. Any other questions?
So I have a question. I'm Kathy. When you suggested adding an egg white to an egg, do you count that then as 2 units of protein or still just 1?
So I would count it as 2 units of protein. You're still getting a decent amount. You're getting a little less not having the yolk, but you are still getting a decent amount of protein. I would count it as 2 because you still are getting a good portion of protein from that. And with protein, most of us probably don't eat, especially with meat, when it comes to like, if you're eating like a chicken breast and things like that, if you start to really measure it, 3 ounces is a good amount. Because I can eat like 2 ounces. I have to push myself to eat like 4 ounces of meat if I'm going to eat them in a serving. But yeah, just kind of fit that out throughout your whole day, but count it as 2 units of protein.
Okay.
Or 2 servings.
Is there an issue in eating more protein? I usually have 4 to 5 ounces of protein at a meal because I'm trying to lose weight. And I've found that the more protein I eat, the faster I lose.
I would make sure you have whole grains or green leafies in your diet too, to make sure your body's processing the protein.
Yeah.
So as long as you're doing that, I eat a lot of protein, so that's why it's really hard for me to gauge for other people, because I was a bodybuilder, so I'm still like mentally, I still eat probably more protein than the average person eats.